The wind had abandoned the plains. Golden grass lay still under the weight of the afternoon sun. A haze shimmered over the cracked soil. Birds were silent. No rustle of leaves. No buzz of insects. Just a deep, bone-dry quiet that stretched across the Serengeti like a held breath. David spotted them first. He raised a fist to signal a halt. The others followed his gaze. There, ahead on the open field, were two lions. The male stood tall, broad-shouldered, mane streaked with dust and sun, but his stance was wrong. Too still, too quiet, his amber eyes locked onto the approaching patrol. Not with threat, not with fear, with something else. Emily adjusted the strap of her kit. "He's not moving," she whispered. David didn't respond. He was already assessing, already breaking down the scene the way only years in the bush could teach you. Behind the male, a lioness lay on her side. Motionless. "She's breathing," Jamal said. "Binoculars up, but barely." David exhaled. "All right, slow, no sudden moves. Emily, you're with me. Jamal, keep watch. If he shifts, you tell me before he does." They started forward, steps measured, boots pressing gently into the dry earth. The lion didn't move. Emily kept her eyes on the female. "She's pregnant." David gave a tight nod. "That belly's too round. Near term, maybe. She's dehydrated," Emily added, voice barely a whisper, ribs showing, sunken sides. "I've got fluids." But they were still 10 feet from a wild lion. Leo didn't growl, didn't bare his teeth. His tail lay still behind him. His breath came slow, shallow. His gaze tracked them, but not like a predator sizing up prey. It was a plea. David stopped just out of range. "You see it too?" he said. Emily nodded. "He's asking us for help." They crouched low. Emily opened her pack. Slowly. No sudden sounds. No glint of metal. She laid out a portable IV and water mix. Glucose packets. Basic first aid. Her hands trembled only a little. Leo shifted. David tensed. But the lion didn't lunge. Didn't roar. He turned, just a step, and looked down at Luna. He nudged her with his snout. Gently. Once. Twice. She didn't move. Emily was already crawling forward. "Stay there," David warned. "I know." She inched toward the lioness. Eyes flicking between Leo and Luna. One hand stretched out. Palm open. Voice soft. "You're okay, girl. We're here. We've got you." Leo sat down. It was the clearest gesture they'd ever seen from a wild animal. He was letting her through. David stood still, watching Leo. The lion's chest moved with slow, deliberate breaths. Worn down, worried, desperate. Emily reached Luna's side. Her skin was dry, her gums pale, heartbeat faint but present. Emily worked fast, slipping the IV under the shoulder skin. Starting the flow, she broke a water capsule and dripped it onto Luna's tongue. "She's hanging on," she said, but not for long. Jamal joined them, rifle slung behind his back. No signs of other lions nearby. "I think they were left behind. Or she couldn't keep up," David muttered. And he stayed. They looked at Leo again. There was no aggression in him. No territorial instinct. Only something older, more raw. Loyalty. Luna stirred. Barely. Her tongue moved against the drops of water. Her eyes fluttered open for a second. Then closed again. Leo moved closer, watching. He didn't touch her, just watched. Emily switched fluids. "She needs shade." And real medical care. She won't survive a truck ride. Jamal said. We make a shelter. David decided. Temporary. Get a tarp from the pack. If she stabilizes, we call the vet chopper. For the next hour, they worked. Emily stayed by Luna's side, monitoring vitals, adjusting fluids. David and Jamal set up a tarp using the nearby acacia tree and hiking poles. They poured small amounts of water into the dry grass to cool the ground beneath her. Leo stayed exactly where he was. Not once did he step between them. Not once did he growl. When Luna stirred again, this time with a real, slow blink, Leo stood and gently lowered his head to hers. She barely touched his muzzle with her own. Emily wiped her brow. She's responding. David took a deep breath. Let's keep her alive long enough to fly her out. The sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the plain. Jamal returned from the vehicle with a satellite phone. Vet teams inbound. 30 minutes. David nodded. We hold here. As the temperature dipped, the world began to move again. A breeze stirred the dry grass. Distant birds called. The hush of the Serengeti broke, softly, but with life. Leo stood guard as the humans worked. He didn't sleep. He didn't leave her side. When the chopper came, he didn't run. He stepped back, watched. As the vet team sedated Luna, loaded her onto a stretcher, and secured her in the cabin, Leo stood on the rise, mane lifting in the wind, eyes locked on the retreating form of his mate. The pilot hesitated. David raised a hand. Let him watch. And Leo did, until the last echo of rotor blades faded into the sky. Then, for the first time, he turned and walked slowly into the grass. Not defeated, not lost, just waiting, just holding on, until she came back. Leo didn't move. The dust clung to his mane, a brittle halo in the dying light. His body was tense but unmoving, planted like a statue in front of the motionless lioness. The only thing alive in him now was his gaze. And he looked straight at them. Emily froze mid-step. Look at his eyes, she whispered. David raised a hand to stop her. I see them. They're not angry, she said, not threatening. He's asking. David narrowed his eyes. He's a lion. They don't ask. Then Leo did something none of them expected. He lowered his head, slowly, solemnly, until his snout nearly touched the ground. Then, with a force that broke the silence like a crack in the earth, he released a deep, guttural roar. But it wasn't a challenge. It wasn't rage. It was grief. A long, trembling bellow, rising from somewhere ancient in his chest, ripped through the Serengeti air. Not once, but twice, then again, and again, a rhythm of mourning, of helplessness, of something primal that none of them had ever heard from an animal so feared. Emily felt her chest tighten. He's begging us. David stayed silent. Behind them, Jamal adjusted his grip on the rifle. We should be careful. That sound. He's losing control. No, Emily said. That's control. That's what control looks like when something you love is dying and you can't do anything about it. She's right, Jamal murmured. If he wanted to charge, he would have already. David clenched his jaw. His instincts screamed at him. Never trust proximity with a dominant male lion. Not even one acting tame. Especially not one this desperate. We're still guessing motives, he said. That's how people get mauled. We're also looking at a lion not behaving like a lion. Emily counted. She's pregnant. He's staying for her. He's giving us space. David didn't answer immediately. He looked at Leo again. The lion's head was still low. His breathing was ragged, but he didn't move, didn't challenge, didn't defend. He's crossing a line, David said. Finally, one of ours. What do we do if we step over it too? Emily's voice was calm. We watch him. We keep reading. But if we wait too long, Luna's gone anyway. Jamal nodded. And we'll never see another chance like this again. David sighed. All right, you approach. Slow. Only you. I stay with the rifle. Jamal spots. Emily moved forward. 1 step. 2. 3. Leo raised his head but didn't stand. His eyes followed her like a tether. As she drew closer to Luna's side, he let out a sound. Not a growl, but a soft, almost trembling chuff. A warning, or permission. Emily stopped. I hear you, she said softly. I'm just going to check her. She lowered herself beside Luna. The lioness's breathing was rapid and shallow. Her flanks barely rose. The bones of her hips jutted sharp through skin. Emily reached slowly for her kit. Her every motion deliberate. She glanced up. Leo watched. Her gums are pale. Emily called out. Skin's dry. Dehydrated. Very weak. She going to make it? David asked. Voice tight. Maybe. If we act now. David scanned the horizon. We're exposed. That's not just a lion. That's a meal for every scavenger within 10 kilometers. I'll set up a field drip. Emily said. Just enough to stabilize. Then we call the vet team. David looked to Leo. Still there. Still watching. What if he turns? Jamal asked. David didn't respond immediately. They all knew what that meant. If Leo lunged, if instinct finally took over, there wouldn't be time for second chances. A full-grown male could cross 20 feet in 2 seconds. But Leo didn't lunge. Instead, he took 1 step backward. Not away from Luna, but slightly to the side. Giving Emily room. David whispered. That's not submission. No, Emily said. That's trust. She worked quickly, threading the IV under Luna's skin, starting the slow drip of rehydration solution. She massaged Luna's neck gently to encourage absorption. Then she broke open a vial of glucose gel and rubbed it on the lioness's gums. Luna didn't move, but she was still breathing. Pulse is steadying, Emily said. Not strong, but not crashing either. Behind her, Leo slowly lay down. His head rested on his paws. His ears twitched as the wind picked up again. Not once did his eyes leave Luna or Emily. He was a sentinel, not just a mate. Jamal lowered his binoculars. This isn't a rogue pair. This is a family, one we don't understand. David slowly put his rifle down. Emily looked over her shoulder at him. You see it now? He nodded. Yeah, I see it. They sat there as the sun dipped lower, washing the plains in amber. The silence returned, but it wasn't hollow anymore. It felt sacred now, like a truce that wasn't spoken, but felt. Emily kept Luna's vitals stable. Jamal radioed the air support team. David kept watch, but not on Leo anymore. He was watching for what might try to take advantage of the moment. Leo didn't move again until the IV was nearly empty. He rose, stepped toward Luna, and lay down beside her, his body curling protectively against hers. His nose brushed her ear. His eyes shut. Finally, and for the first time since they'd found him, Leo rested, not in defeat, in hope. Emily's boots pressed gently into the sun-baked earth. Each step a quiet act of courage. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. But her hands stayed steady, trained by years, tested by moments like this. In her grip was a roll of gauze, IV fluids, antiseptic, and mild sedative. Luna lay still, her breathing shallow. Dust clung to her fur in patches. The heat had not been kind. And Leo hadn't moved. He sat like a stone monument, watching every breath, every twitch, every blink, but his gaze never left Emily. The unblinking stare wasn't a warning. It wasn't a threat. It was a question he asked with his whole body. Are you here to help? Or to harm? Emily stopped just outside Luna's reach. I need a little more time, she said softly, more to the lion than to the team behind her. From a distance, Jamal replied, You've got it. I'm getting the sedative and more water. David didn't move. His rifle stayed low, not raised, but ready. His eyes flicked between Leo's shoulders and his paws. He was reading the tension, looking for any sign of a shift. A single twitch could mean the difference between trust and tragedy. Emily crouched, slowly lowering her supplies. The air felt thicker here, as if even the breeze held its breath. She moved closer, knees to the ground now, hands calm. Hey, girl, she whispered to Luna. You're hanging in there. We're going to help. She reached out. Luna didn't flinch, didn't pull away. Her paw was swollen, the joint bruised and caked with dried blood. Emily gently brushed away the dirt, revealing a deep gash near the ankle, possibly a rock. Maybe a thorn or snare wire. Whatever caused it had started to fester. Emily worked quickly. She rinsed the wound with antiseptic. Her fingers precise, every motion soft. Luna groaned faintly. Leo's ears twitched. Emily froze. Leo stood. David took a step forward, rifle lifting. But Leo didn't growl, didn't roar. He walked slowly, one heavy paw at a time, and settled back down just beside Luna's head. He nuzzled her cheek, licked the edge of her ear, and then looked at Emily again. And waited. Emily could barely breathe. He knows, she whispered. He knows I'm helping her. Jamal jogged back with a soft canteen and syringe. Here, he said, crouching beside David, keeping his eyes on Leo. Mild sedative, just enough to calm her down. Shouldn't affect the cubs. It, David said, eyes locked on the lion. Emily prepped the syringe. She whispered soothing words, nonsense words, soft and slow, and injected the sedative just beneath Luna's skin. Then she slipped the IV needle into a vein on the lioness's foreleg and secured the line with gauze. Water flowed. Not much, just enough to start. Leo leaned down and licked Luna's face. A long, slow gesture, filled with something ancient, not animal instinct, not dominance. Love. David whispered. He just thanked you. Emily swallowed hard. Yeah, I think he did. She reached for a clean cloth and dabbed Luna's mouth, dripping water into her cracked lips. The lioness responded faintly, tongue flicking, eyes fluttering. Emily could feel the pulse strengthen under her fingers. The sedative was working. Her breathing slowed. Jamal handed Emily the canteen. More? Emily nodded. We keep it slow. Her system's fragile. As the second dose of fluid trickled in, the heat of the day finally began to wane. The Serengeti was shifting again, the shadows growing long, the light going soft. Far off, vultures circled, but none dared approach the patch of earth ruled by this strange alliance of predator and human. David lowered his rifle completely. I've seen lions my whole life, he said. But this is different. He's not just staying, Jamal said. He's giving her over, at least for now. They all watched as Leo adjusted his position again. His side touching Luna's, his massive body acting as a shield. But not from the humans. From the world. Emily checked the IV line. Adjusted the flow. Luna's breathing was steady now. Her paw was cleaned and wrapped. The glucose gel had revived some color in her gums. Her chances, still thin, were growing. She needs airlift within the hour, Emily said, but she's stable enough now. If we can get her to a mobile vet unit, she might survive. David nodded. Already called. They're en route. 10 minutes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the world turned quiet again, but not dead quiet. Not like before. This silence held weight, held meaning. Emily sat back, just for a moment, letting her muscles relax. Leo watched her still, but his body had eased. The tremor in his flanks was gone. His breathing matched Luna's. Emily whispered, "You trusted me." She didn't say it for anyone else to hear. But Leo heard, and as if in answer, he did something none of them could explain, something no one would believe if they hadn't seen it. He closed his eyes, not in sleep, in peace, just for a second. The first stir was almost invisible. Emily caught it in the corner of her eye, a twitch in Luna's foreleg. A subtle flicker of movement. She froze, watching, not daring to speak. The IV bag was nearly empty now. And the lioness had been still for over an hour, drifting in the gray space between life and death. Then, slowly, her eyes opened. Faint, glassy, but open. "She's waking up," Emily whispered. David and Jamal stood still at a distance, their silhouettes sharp against the fading light. No one moved. No one spoke. The entire world seemed to hold its breath. Luna blinked once. Her pupils shifted, adjusting to the late afternoon glow. She turned her head just slightly, her muscles trembling with the effort, until her gaze found Leo. The male stirred immediately. He rose, not in panic, not in defense, but in response. As if summoned by her glance alone, he stepped forward, each movement slow and deliberate, and lowered his head toward hers. She let out a weak breath, almost a sigh. Leo gently touched his muzzle to her cheek. "She sees him," Emily said. "She knows." Luna tried to move. Her front paw shifted, then buckled under her. She groaned softly, eyes narrowing in discomfort. Leo pressed closer, nudging her side, coaxing, not forcing, encouraging. "She's trying to stand," Jamal said quietly. David grunted. "If she overexerts, she'll crash. Let her try," Emily said. "She needs to know she still can." Luna braced again, this time digging her back legs into the dirt. Her muscles shook under the strain. Leo moved beside her, not blocking her path but offering his body as a brace. And then, miraculously, she rose. Unsteady, shaky, her legs wobbled like saplings in the wind. But she was up, standing, breathing, alive. A sound escaped Emily's throat, half laugh, half gasp. She stood slowly, giving Luna space, backing away instinctively. David and Jamal remained still, ready, but something in the tension began to unravel. Leo turned to face them. His amber eyes met theirs across the golden field. The wildness was still there. He was a lion, after all, but it had softened. The hard edge was gone. The storm behind his stare had cleared. He looked at the rangers not with threat, but with recognition, and something close to gratitude. No one said anything. They didn't need to. Words would have broken the quiet. And this moment belonged to silence. Leo lowered his head briefly, then turned back to Luna. He leaned against her gently, letting her rest her weight against his shoulder. She limped forward, one step, then another, still weak, but moving under her own strength. The sun dipped lower, casting long streaks of amber and orange across the dry earth. The light caught their fur, painting them in fire and shadow. Two figures, scarred, exhausted, but together, moved as one across the plain. "They're walking away," Jamal said. "They're going to find shade," David muttered. "Or maybe they just want to be alone." "Let them," Emily said. "They've earned it." Luna paused briefly and looked back. Just once. It might have been instinct. Or it might have been something else. Her gaze passed over the humans, then returned to Leo. She leaned her head against his. And they moved on. The breeze returned, warm and light. The dry grass danced again. A distant bird cried out across the sky. And life slowly resumed its rhythm. The rangers stood still for another minute, watching the lions disappear into the tall grass. Side by side, David finally spoke. "I've worked this land for 20 years. Never seen anything like that." Jamal nodded. "That lion, he chose to trust us." Emily didn't say anything. Her eyes were still fixed on the place where they vanished. Heart still beating with the echo of something unspoken. "It wasn't just survival," she said quietly. "That was love." They packed the supplies without urgency. No rush now. The emergency had passed. The field was quiet again. Not empty, but calm. The sun slipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in soft pastels. The last light touched the place where Leo and Luna had stood, gilding it in gold. And in that light, the Serengeti didn't feel harsh. It felt like hope, alive again. The last light stretched low across the Serengeti, turning every blade of grass to gold. Leo walked slowly, each step deliberate, as if reluctant to leave the humans behind. Luna stayed close to his side, limping slightly but upright, alive, recovering, and moving under her own strength. Her breathing was steadier now, her gaze alert. Her body was bruised, but her spirit was intact. Every few paces, Leo paused. He would turn his massive head to look back, not with suspicion or fear, but with something else entirely. A flicker of recognition, of memory, of quiet thanks. He wasn't forgetting. He was remembering them, the humans who had stepped into his world not with force, but with open hands, who had crossed an unspoken line, not to conquer, but to care. No one said a word. Emily stood with her hands at her sides, the half-empty IV pack dangling from her belt. Her eyes followed the lions as they moved farther into the warm embrace of the dusk. Her breath caught in her chest as Leo looked back one last time, his mane catching the orange light like fire. It was a look she would never forget. He wasn't the king of the jungle in that moment, she said softly, voice thick with emotion. He was just a mate, asking us to save his world. David glanced at her, then looked back toward the fading silhouettes. "We weren't just rescuers today," he said. "We were witnesses to something real." Jamal gave a quiet nod. "You don't see that kind of thing in training manuals. They're more than what we think they are," Emily added. "Not just instincts. Not just predators." She trailed off, but everyone knew what she meant. Trust, loyalty, love. They had seen it in Leo's refusal to leave Luna's side, in his willingness to let strangers come near, in the way he stood by while hands, not paws, tried to fix what nature couldn't. They had seen it in the silence he had offered, and in the roar that had broken it. A roar not of warning, but of grief. And then, after the pain, a moment of grace. Now, with each step into the horizon, Leo and Luna reclaimed their wildness. But something had changed. A bridge had been built, one not made of language or dominance, but of choice, mutual, fragile, sacred. As the couple moved farther into the grassland, their forms blurred into the tall stalks. The sunset deepened, painting the sky in layers of crimson and indigo. Leo turned one final time. He didn't stop, just a glance. But in that glance was everything. A bond acknowledged, a promise remembered. Then they were gone, swallowed by the land that had shaped them. Their silhouettes blending into the endless canvas of the African dusk. The rangers remained a while longer, standing silently in the afterglow. Emily held the canteen in one hand, her other resting lightly over her chest. She didn't cry, but her eyes shone with something deeper than tears, something earned. Even the fiercest kings know when to kneel, she whispered, as much to herself as to the others. When love is on the line. The breeze returned, rustling the tall grass like applause from an unseen audience. And somewhere in the distance, life continued. Birds called out, insects stirred. The world kept spinning, but something in the Serengeti had shifted. Not the laws of nature, but the rules of understanding, of compassion, of crossing lines not meant to divide, but to connect. In the end, it hadn't been power that defined Leo. It had been the moment he let go of control, the moment he let hope in. As night crept over the plain, the final rays of sun lit the trail they had walked, two sets of paw prints side by side. Then fading into shadow, the humans turned back toward their truck, not as conquerors, but as witnesses. Changed. Behind them, in the golden distance, two shapes moved as one. Love, life, and trust, bound not by species, but by something far stronger.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment 1. And if you didn't, just hit like. See you in the next videos.